YouTube again. Welcome to another one of my videos today. Today we're gonna on why there is a lack of empathy on the internet. I'm going to cover like two main reasons. This is gonna be like part one or at least part two when I can. But what I think on the first reason when it comes to internet where there's no empathy, I must say here that this won't be a blanket statement. There are still some regions of the internet that still have empathy, but like generally speaking, when it comes to popular social media sites, I think why there's a lack of empathy is because there's this thing called internet anonymity. I think this one's like the most basic form. Internet anonymity. People feel more emboldened to take terrible stances on issues. Well, not terrible stances on issues. That's a little bit out there. People feel more emboldened to take extreme stances for that matter. Take like especially when it comes to, they say there's like a video out there on YouTube. Let's say somewhere out on the platform where someone's talking about their own issues. And let's say there's someone that says like womp womp or something like that. That's what you call an extreme position right there. Because that's just saying like that's just someone like making fun of someone else for that matter. You say a random commenter says that. I think that's why, because of internet anonymity, their face can't really be shown, their face can't really be seen at all, because especially when they say quote unquote womp womp, they feel more emboldened because no quote unquote no one will find out about them. Even though internet data is pretty traceable, it really depends. But I think another reason why people feel more emboldened is because of echo chambers. All right, now where we talk about echo chambers, simply where people's views are constantly being reinforced. I think this also creates the stance for very, very extreme positions. Like, let's say on the case of abuse, someone takes a very, very polarized stance. Like, let's say they take on the case of, oh, I've got very polarized. It's for both sides for that matter. Like, let's say someone takes a stance on very extreme stance for that matter, in, let's say, in an echo chamber video where someone says we should quote unquote we should be forgiving of other people's, of all abusers for that matter. Like, all of them have the chance to be redeemed, quote unquote. I think that's what you call an extreme stance right there. Because if you don't look at the other side, don't look at the other side at all, there are still some of these that are irredeemable for that matter. That's what you call an extreme stance. It also creates the chance for other people to make fun of others' viewpoints, to make fun of other people's, let's say, stances for that matter. Let's say in a very entrenched place, like let's say where there's an entrenched place where people are too uncritically forgiving on cases of abuse, or someone makes a neutral stance or a stance from the other side, they'll be mocked and made fun of. Why? Because of number one, echo chambers where points are being reinforced, and number two, internet anonymity. You see, when someone makes a point out there without showing their face at all, they feel very emboldened for that matter, especially when it comes to the mob mentality. Like, let's say there's like a reply section of someone talking about their own cases of abuse, and then let's say there's someone out in the reply section that makes fun of them. More people will feel emboldened. That's one reason why there's a lack of empathy, because when someone talks about their problems, they're made fun of or misunderstood for it. That's what really makes it dangerous here, because of internet shame culture and cancel culture too, we've made things a lot worse for people, especially when a lot of people feel that emboldened because well, number one, they're not showing their face. Number two, quote unquote, no one will find out about them, even though some probably will. But people feel emboldened because they don't have the real identity. Obviously, if they said it in real life, like let's say an adult said that to a teen out there in real life, face-to-face conversation. Let's say they absolutely rat them out in a very rude way. Obviously, both sides will very much have there's going to be a lot of danger when it comes to it. There might be an altercation for that matter. But when you translate it into online, let's say there's a teen out there that's showcasing about their own issues, let's say on TikTok or something like that. There's like an adult out there that's entrenched in their own viewpoints, take an extreme stance. Other people will feel emboldened to also make fun of that teen. See how dangerous mob mentality is, chat? Especially when people can't recognize individuality in others. Like even for me, I take a very neutral stance on when it comes to cases of abuse because for me, I believe that both sides need to have a say, especially for people who've seen rehabilitation and for others who've been abused themselves. I take a very neutral stance and look at both sides of the story. But what I really think here is that the energy to share your own viewpoints versus the energy to mock others is very, very different. All right. Obviously, I'm gonna get pushback for taking neutral stances on issues, but that type of energy is way different. To be fair, but looking at it again, I think a lot of people fail to realize that because of a lack of empathy, people fail to realize that they too are human too. Even the same people who are abused, they are humans too with their own emotions. The same teens out there that are made fun for venting online, let's say the same people out there that need help, they they are humans too with their own complex set of emotions. I may still take neutral stances when it comes to emotionally charged cases, but I'm still going to recognize that these are people with their own emotions. These are people with their own vulnerabilities. These are people who have their own they're their own human for that matter. They have their soul, they have their own experiences. Can't just reduce them down to binary thinking or simple labels because it only makes things worse. Echo chambers, especially in very hot cases, will not lead to solutions. Where places where people feel emboldened to make fun of each other because of anonymity won't lead to solutions either. So by looking at the case again, these are two reasons why people feel too emboldened because quote unquote anonymity, and number two, extreme stances in echo chambers that don't allow for any nuance. But yeah, you guys get the point here. The energy to share your own neutral viewpoints on issues, that's far different than being emboldened to make fun and mock others. The reason empathy is kind of a shortage here is because people in mob groups in mob mentality online feel very emboldened to attack on another person, especially if they're perceived as weak, especially if they themselves think empathy or vulnerability is a weakness. That's a really dangerous part right there. And when it comes to it, I look to break that kind of thing down, and secretes very suppressive signals for that matter. That's it's really looking at it again, there are a lot of people out there that are still emboldened because ultimately these people have made their internet just way worse than it really is today. There's still a lot of people out there suffering. There are still a lot of people who are being abused suffering. There are still a lot of teens out there who are still being made fun of online, even in school, to recognize that they too exist. They are still being made fun of. Why? Because there's no empathy. People can't recognize individuality in other people because number one, they feel emboldened. No, and there's a lot of anonymity, and number two, people are kind of a complex mix for that matter. Even then, I believe we shouldn't reduce people who make fun of others to simplistic labels or attack back at them. Because the same people who create polarized discussions, the same people who make fun of others, if we make fun of them and separate them away from humanity, we risk being the very thing that we are trying to destroy away. If we don't show empathy to people who don't show empathy, then that's one in the same, even though it's still completely different intentions. It's still very similar to one in the same. That's why it's still very difficult though. There's still a lot of people out there trying to make there are still people out there still making fun of other people. What really sucks out there is people can't recognize individuality. People can't recognize that people have their own complex set of emotions. People still can't recognize even anything simple you say might be misunderstood, or that they might oh my gosh, they might internalize that for that matter. All right, I'm going to make that a little bit simpler here. But there's a lot of people out there, especially when it comes to brain rot too. I'm going to cover that in a whole different video. But people are losing. We as a society have sacrificed polarization. We have sacrificed individuality for strong reactions and mob mentality, making fun of others in a few ways. It really sucks what the internet has come to today.